Hey everybody. So this is the first time I'm trying this Google Hangout thing for an online lesson. So bear with me. We're gonna try to keep it short, and I'm here at my home base. If you couldn't tell, we're gonna give this a shot. Hopefully it works out, and hopefully it's something cool and we can keep trying, and maybe get you guys trying this as well. So I'm just going to switch over my screen here. So I've got a screen share my screen. So right now you should be seeing this, which is the Expansion and Imperialism review of the Native relations during expansion. So I'm going to go ahead and present this. And now I'm going to go through this really quickly because this is all stuff that we've already covered. I want to talk about the fact that Native relations were strained by U.S. actions and actions of predominantly white settlers during the early parts of the nation beginning and up until around 1900. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing, if we're looking at first contact, in 1492 Columbus makes first contact. He inferred that the native people were an inferior race. He also noted that they could easily be commanded to made to work, to sew, and to do whatever might be needed, to build towns and be taught to wear clothes and adopt our ways again. As soon as we begin stepping onto the shores of the New World, we are all of a sudden assuming that they should act the way we do and dress the way we do, and they should serve us. His record of the first encounter between Europeans and the New World Indians was filled with accounts of enslavement and murder. It wasn't this really nice, oh my gosh, we're all friends singing Kumbaya. No, no, no. It was much different than that. They were treating the natives very, very poorly. And this is almost, in a way, the first beginning to the end of Native American life as they knew it. So if we skip ahead, again, this is a very brief way of looking at it, but if we skip ahead, in 1607, there is the settlement at Jamestown, and 100 settlers founded the first permanent English settlement in North America on the banks of the James River. Famine, disease, and conflict with local Native American tribes into the first 2 years brought Jamestown to the brink of failure. They did survive, but this colony also marked the beginning of the end for the way of life for millions of Native Americans. This is when disease really started to take its toll on Native American populations because they didn't have any immunity for it. And it only continued to get worse because this is the first instance of us really taking land, not just claiming it, but taking it for ourselves, unwanted and uninvited. Let's skip way ahead to 1803, to the Louisiana Purchase. The purchase of the Louisiana Territory from France in 1803 doubled the size of the United States. This was America's really our first step westward after the Revolutionary War, and it would lead to millions of natives being pushed from their homes because remember we weren't going to be going past the Mississippi River. This opens it up to much further west, and our eyes are not just okay with set on Midwest United States, manifest destiny at all costs. We're getting to the West Coast, and come hell or high water, the natives will be moved. This additionally eliminated a lot of buffalo herds. The main food source for Plains natives, that was almost hunted near extinction. So many of them felt the effects of that as well. Again, our actions are for ourselves. Think of imperialism, looking out for ourselves, pushing around to smaller, weaker people for our own needs. And the next, looking at, again, we're skipping ahead. We're doing a lot of skipping in this. We're just kind of taking a brief overlook of what we've already talked about in the last year and a half. In 1830, the Indian Removal Act was passed by Congress in May during the presidency of Andrew Jackson, a well-known president for moving or treating Native Americans very poorly. The law authorized the president to negotiate with southern Indian tribes for their removal to federal territories, also known as reservations, west of the Mississippi River, in exchange for their homelands. Oftentimes, a lot of them were sent to Oklahoma, reservations, land set aside for them. We're taking a people that once roamed wherever they wanted to, own the land that they had, but now we're telling them you can only go to this amount of land where we tell you to go. Again, we're taking advantage of them. We're pushing them around for our own interest. Are we imperializing as we expand? And to go along with the Indian Removal Act, there was this Supreme Court case we briefly mentioned last year, Worcester v. Georgia. And the court ruled that the Indian nation in the area was a distinct community in which the laws of Georgia have no force whatsoever. So President Jackson was still a president at this time, was outraged, and refused to enforce the ruling. And instead, he created this removal act to forcibly remove the tribes. He used the funding from this act to forcibly remove all the tribes from certain areas that, in his mind, stood in the way of their progress. And along with that came the Trail of Tears. From 1838 to 1839, as part of Andrew Jackson's removal policy, the Cherokee Nation was forced to give up its lands east of the Mississippi River and migrate to an area in present-day Oklahoma. The Cherokee people call this journey the Trail of Tears because of the thousands of natives that died on the trek. They died from exposure, from exhaustion, not eating well. Disease was rampant. But again, here we are, a very powerful nation, taking over a smaller group of people, telling them to move, forcing them to do things for our own benefit. And as we move on throughout American history, we're just kind of littered with different instances where we take advantage of natives or push them around unjustly. And this is just another example, the 1862 Homestead Act. The Homestead Act of 1862 gave 160 acres of land to anyone who would start a farm on the land, and this land was free. Thousands of people became homesteaders, and homesteaders are people who live on the land, build homes to live in, and farm the land. Most of them was formerly inhabited by native tribes. So again, moving a group of people for our own benefit. Noticing a trend. Hope so. After that, we look at in 1887, we were taking another big leap forward, the Dawes Act. And the head of each native family could have 160 acres of reservation land owned. Not land, reservation land, land that they already had. Natives, again, the push was to Americanize them, so we wanted they could become U.S. citizens if they farmed the land and take up white settlers' ways. Again, we're really pushing our own opinions on this. We're not exactly being too kind to the natives. And in the Dawes Act, Congress shows that it does not understand natives or their problems. They thought, oh, they need land, they need to farm, they need to this. That's not what it was at all. But yet we made assumptions and therefore treated the Native Americans poorly or assumed we knew what was best for them when we really didn't know at all. And I guess one of the big ones, the last ones that we're going to kind of focus on is the Battle at Wounded Knee, also kind of more appropriately referred to as the Massacre at Wounded Knee. On December 29th, the U.S. Army 7th Cavalry surrounded as a band of ghost dancers, Native Americans performing the ghost dance, near Wounded Knee and demanded they surrender their weapons. As that was all happening, a fight broke out between an Indian and a U.S. soldier, and a shot was fired. It's unclear which side, but there was a shot fired. A brutal massacre followed, in which is estimated 150 natives were killed, nearly half of them women and children, and the cavalry only lost about 25 men. So that about wraps things up for that portion. I'm going to go back now to the Hangouts, and I'm going to go ahead and just, let's see if I can unshare this. I can go back to myself. So hopefully you're seeing me right now. So that just kind of sums up. This video in no way, shape, or form represents all of the things that the whites and early settlers and pioneers moving west and the U.S. government, along with our presidents, Congress, the Senate, and all of that, did to Native Americans. It's just a brief overlook at some of the major things we've talked about so far and some of the things we're going to be reviewing in the next few classes when we look at the idea of America beginning to expand as a nation and to imperialize our neighbors, the Native Americans. Hope you enjoyed this online lesson, and we'll see you next time.